Good morning. Today we're going to talk about the Proma Compact THC 150. This is the same style that's used on the Wright CNC tables. And we're going to go ahead and talk about calibrating the THC. And one of the first things that we're going to do is go ahead and turn it on. Some of you may have an inline switch that allows it to be turned on. The other ones, you do have to plug it in or unplug it. So we're going to go ahead and plug this in. Perfect. So THC comes on. I have voltage across my screen. I have 3 dots on my screen. That's great. That is exactly what we want to see. If we don't see this, that means there's probably an issue with the power coming into it. Very few times have we ever run into a THC gone wrong. Now, secondly here, we're going to go ahead and fire up a plasma cutter. Now, right now, we don't have a plasma cutter plugged into the end of this, so we're not going to see voltage. However, when you do turn on your plasma cutter and fire it, you will see numbers scroll across the screen. Now, if we don't see numbers, there's definitely a problem there. That means that the plasma cutter isn't communicating to the THC, and that may be a continuity issue between the DV side here and the back end of your plasma cutter. So keep that in mind. If you don't have numbers scrolling across the screen, when the plasma cutter is firing, that's likely because there's a connectivity issue between the DV side here and the back end of your plasma cutter. So double check that. Now, there is one exception to the rule. That is with the Everlast plasma cutters. With the Everlast, we're going to be able to see nothing scroll across the screen when plugged into the 50-to-1 divided arc voltage on the back end of the Everlast. But that's largely due to a small compatibility error between the Proma and the Everlast plasma cutter. So keep that in mind. Call over to tech support and we can walk you through that fix. It's a small jumper that has to be placed in order to allow us to read voltage correctly and accurately on this Proma THC. Now, what we're going to walk through today is a calibration of this THC to match the Hypertherm Plasma Cutters. That means that we'll be able to go and connect directly to the plasma cutter and use the voltage Hypertherm specifies in their manuals. So it makes it really simple to run the THC when you can use the information that Hypertherm has already given you. All right, so let's go ahead and run that calibration. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to turn it off, and then we're going to turn it back on while holding down these 2 buttons. We'll see the word CAL appear across the screen, and then we're going to release once we see CAL, and that will bring us to the calibration screen, and then we can make some small adjustments. So let's go ahead and turn it off. Hold down the 2 buttons, and then we're going to turn it back on. All right, THC, 36, CAL, release. Now we have 3 zeros across our screen. That's exactly what we want to see. 3 zeros across the screen. If we don't see that, we've gone too far. Or you didn't release CAL soon enough, or both buttons weren't depressed. Either way, we want to make sure we get 3 zeros across our screen. So if you haven't, go back, repeat that step, and this will give us the information. Next up, every time we hit the up button, we're going to see that it changes. Now, I right now have mine set to 150, so that's exactly what you're going to do. You're going to hit the up button until you see 150 across the screen. Perfect. There we go, 150. And then we can go ahead and hold down the buttons again and release. And it sets it back to the main screen. Now your THC is calibrated. Now you should be able to use the Hypertherm book settings. Now, there is one caveat that I'll mention about using the Hypertherm book settings. They are not written in stone. There are going to be small variances that happen over time. We'll see that voltage is going to change based on the life of your consumable, whether or not you have water in your line, air in your line, particulates in your line. You're going to see minor differences between what the book says and what the THC is actually going to read in order to give that accurate height. So Hypertherm really gets you, I would say, 85 to 90% of the way there, and then you have to make some small fine-tune adjustments while it's cutting. Now, for those of you who don't know, I do want to mention that your THC value, whatever voltage that you decide to put into here that you want the actual torch to use to maintain the height, that's going to change per thickness of material. That'll also change if you, while cutting one given thickness of material, you decide to slow it down or speed it up. Everything in terms of voltage is relative to speed and thickness. And once speed and thickness are changed, the voltage is going to change in order to maintain that perfect height. If you change speed and don't change voltage, likelihood you'll see your torch begin to rise or begin to fall. And it's going to either make contact with your material or cause the torch to lift up off the table and start cutting incorrectly. So you want to make sure that you have this set using the Hypertherm book, using the Hypertherm speed settings so that you're using that correctly. Now with things like the Everlast or the Lodos or the Miller, there's not a lot of data out there. So what I would recommend is doing a little bit of trial and error. We have a couple other THC videos that walk you through some of the calibrations that we've done in the past. So if you want to use those calibrations, you can really go far with the Proma THC using non-Hypertherm plasma cutters. But again, we have so much data available on the Hypertherm plasma cutters, it really makes it simple. In any case, that's how you calibrate a THC, and there's also just a bunch of other information that I just gave you. So keep cutting and take all of that into consideration as you move forward. Thank you.